everyone. Just some quick housekeeping items. If you're not yet muted, please go ahead and mute your microphones just so everybody else has clear audio. And then if during this presentation, if God forbid my Wi-Fi drops out, please drop something in the chat so I can see that you guys are having trouble hearing me, and I'll try to do my best to get that situated. Otherwise, I think that's everything. So we can go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming. This is incredibly exciting. I am so passionate about this topic, and it's something that I've been working with for 4 to 5 years now. So I'm excited to be able to share it with you guys. And can you even believe that it is March 30th? We are a quarter through 2022 and full speed ahead to get out of the cold weather and into balmy summer sun. Those of us with kids are probably trying to enjoy the last few months of school and mentally prepping for them to be home for the summer. Others of us might be scrambling last minute to finish our taxes, but I'm sure all of us are daydreaming about our summer vacations. This is a problem that we face every year naturally: how to stay focused and productive during this time of year as the flowers start to bloom and all we want to do is go outside in the sun and enjoy ourselves. So the solution is to work smarter, not harder. Like I said, flow is a concept I learned about 4 to 5 years ago. And from that moment, I began instantly implementing the principles, and it has completely changed the way that I work forever. The flow state is the term that it's coined as. It's a state of complete focus, productivity, and being totally in the zone. And so a lot of times we think about this in terms of when we're at work, being in the zone at work and flowing through whatever we're working on, but it can really happen anywhere: when you're working out, when you're with your family, when you're doing any of your self-care activities. And so I take this a step further and call it the idea of living in flow. It's mastering this art of bobbing and weaving through your natural energy cycles in order to fully capitalize on riding the wave of your most productive energies at work, at home, and during playtime. By allowing our mind, body, and spirit to take purposeful downtime, we're able to provide ourselves a valuable recharge that we are desperately craving. So I want to quickly draw everyone back to an example that I gave in my last masterclass. Put yourself first. So if you weren't there, let me explain. I talk about the overflowing cup and empty cup analogy. So picture a cup of water, and this is all of your energy. And every day you have to pour water from that cup into all the other cups that represent work and your family and your friends. And as you're pouring the water into those cups during the day, you deplete the energy and the water in your cup. And so the idea is the next morning, if your energy is still depleted, you can't pour the same amount into each of the other cups. So you have to take the time to put yourself first, revitalize and recharge yourself to refill your cup so you can continue to pour into all of the things that you care about. And like I said, if your cup is always empty, if you're not taking that time to fill yourself back up, you can't keep producing output. It just simply does not work. You can't create something from nothing. And so this operating at an empty cup in a prolonged amount of time is called burnout. So this is a huge buzzword. I actually just saw 3 articles come out about it last week, because the World Health Organization has officially termed burnout like a medical term. And so they define it as a result of unmanaged chronic stress for an extended period of time. They break it down into 3 parts: that there's a physical or emotional exhaustion, there is a sense of cynicism and detachment towards your work, and there is a decreased sense of accomplishment or productivity associated with whatever you're doing. And so the solution that they provide, like anything else, is to go to the doctor. But I was talking with one of my friends recently who is a PhD graduate from Duke University, and he was saying stress just simply is not something that Western medicine has been educated on how to properly deal with. It's not really something that you can just pop a pill for. It's something that you have to reduce. You cannot manage your stress, you can reduce it. And this happens through changes in your mindset, setting boundaries, and creating healthy habits. And like I said, doctors can't do anything about that because it's the way that you live your life. So the responsibility is yours. When we're taught about these things, setting boundaries and having healthy mindsets and healthy habits, it doesn't really seem to be taken seriously. It kind of feels fluffy to me. And so a lot of people shrug it off and never really take the time to properly implement these things into their lives. But it is the only solution. So everybody, by showing up here today, you are committing to no longer be a victim of your stress. And I'm really excited for you. Mastering your flow is the easiest way to practically live the concept of maintaining an overflowing cup. So welcome everybody to Work Smarter, Not Harder by Mastering Your Flow. This class was designed as part informational, part meditational, and part conversational. So we're going to try to utilize the breakout rooms so that we can get into groups of 3 and brainstorm together and find some solutions for success with the help of your peers. But if we have any sort of technical difficulties, hopefully we don't, we can just do it as a big group. Like my last class, you're definitely going to want to grab a pen and paper because I'm going to walk you through some exercises where hopefully you're going to uncover some really big solutions and epiphanies about how to implement this into your life. So for those of you who don't know me, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kerstie Blue. I am an intuitive life coach, a CPA, yogi, adventurer, lifelong adventurer, and a green juice enthusiast. I live in a state of constant flow. Following the flow mentality for this last few years has made me a complete addict to it because it's just kind of fun. I really enjoy being able to control and respect my own flow of productivity. I've become secure enough within myself in this process that I don't hide it anymore. At the beginning, I was kind of nervous and not really sure how to talk to other people about it because it felt so, I don't know, the way I see it, it felt a little woo-woo. A lot of people say those kinds of things, but it's really not. And so now I share it with anybody who's willing to listen. So my mission as a coach is to change the way our society operates. I want to help empower everybody to live with more love, more compassion and kindness for everyone around us, but most importantly, ourselves first and foremost. I think the corporate world desperately needs to embrace the idea of flow. We've been operating at this sort of like maximum production sort of pace and speed as if we're robots, and that's just simply not the case for human beings. So after learning about this today, you too can join along with my mission and advocate for change in the corporate world across the country by leading by example. So I want to take you back in time. I am no stranger to burnout myself. I struggled with it for years, and not just in corporate jobs, in school, in life, period. You can struggle from burnout doing anything, not just work. You can also struggle from burnout being a parent. So before I became a life coach, I'm a CPA, so I was working at KPMG in public accounting. And when we took those jobs on fresh out of college, we were promised work weeks of 40 hours, and our busy season was supposed to be only 3 months of 60 hours a week. But that wasn't really the case. What it actually ended up being was the majority of the year was 60-hour weeks, and those 3 months of busy season hours turned into 4 to 6 months, and it was closer to 80-hour weeks. So we got to this point where our energy was completely disrupted and way overstretched because we were working way too much. We didn't have any time to properly reset ourselves. Our routines were completely eliminated and replaced by just work all the time. We would eat all 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, at work at our desks. And I'm sure some of you are not a stranger to that, unfortunately. Somehow, magically, we were less productive than we were before, and our work product was not nearly as good. We were experiencing a complete lack of motivation, and we spent more time stressing out about our to-do lists and organizing those to-do lists and updating each other on those to-do lists than we were actually working on our stuff and accomplishing anything. It's just a sheer volume that we didn't really understand how to manage. We didn't have the adequate time to balance our work life with our personal lives at all for an extended period of time. And so that is the perfect environment for burnout. Not only that, but as auditors, you may or may not have seen the movie Wolf of Wall Street, where the auditors come in and they're told to go into a glass room so everybody can see what they're doing. And they turn up the AC all the way and treat them nicely. And it's just not a good environment. It's a very uncomfortable atmosphere. A lot of clients would put us in their closet spaces or their basements. Us as a team, because we were so focused on working and not balancing, we had little to no discussions during the day because we were too busy. We'd just pop in our earbuds and crank out all day, every day. It got to the point where I was feeling massive sensory deprivation because we were in these rooms with no windows and either completely frozen out from air conditioning, or there was no air conditioning and we were really hot and had to bring in fans. So the effects kind of turned me and my friends and my colleagues into a bit of a vampire. We would come out into the sunlight and be like, oh my gosh, it hurts. We would go into grocery stores and be totally overwhelmed with just the visual stimulation. And sometimes I still feel that way. I'm recovering. My case may sound a bit extreme, but it is the perfect example of how important this concept is, how easy it is to get out of hand, and how possible it is for everybody to figure out how to manage. Because it's not like my hours changed when I was working in the corporate job. Something else changed. Once I started to recognize these effects that were happening to me, I spoke up for myself more to not be in some of those situations, like in the closets and the basements. So just simply having windows was a major improvement, but I wasn't done. I started taking matters into my own hands to make the work environment for myself and my team more conducive to relaxation and enjoyment. Work doesn't have to be miserable. So the company that I was at provided a budget for every team. They called it team of choice, and it was usually spent on little things to show appreciation for the team. Typically, we spent it at Starbucks, paying the tab at the bar after happy hour, and for little gift cards. But when I became in charge of how that funding was spent, I changed it in a really big way. I started to completely change the atmosphere of the rooms we were working in. I added decor, like holiday decor, posters, little furnishings and knickknacks, candles. Admittedly, I had an open flame candle at one point, probably not the safest idea, but it was all fine. I added essential oils, heaters, fans, and blankets, which I'm sure many of you have in your workspaces, healthier snacks. I added a Bose speaker on one corner of the room. I added different lighting to the rooms. At one point, I even had a water fountain running. I opened the windows so we could get air whenever I could. And I actually brought in little plants. So when I started to incorporate the elements, the fire, air, water, wind, and earth, that's when both myself and my team experienced major improvements because it's grounding. But I didn't stop there. I took it further to give the team massive freedom to manage their schedules in accordance with their energy cycles and what motivated them. I allowed them to create their own new routines. I discussed with them what was important in their personal lives, midday workouts, morning workouts, doing longer or shorter days, certain days of the week to build in time with significant others, friends, and midday excursions, like taking a long break to go to the mall if you want. I worked with the team to work it into our schedule as a team. It made them feel heard and appreciated, and their work product showed it. We accomplished way more than expected at a much higher quality than before. I made it a point to ask no questions. I based it on trust because ultimately we're responsible human beings. We're responsible adults. There's no need to micromanage. We then owned this decision as a team with confidence, and we decided to tell others, other colleagues, other teams about what we were doing. I personally stepped into my own power when my bosses and the partners asked about it. And to my surprise and shock, they really admired this example that I was setting. They expressed the desire to do the same for themselves. So overall, the lesson here is when you put yourself first in your personal life, you create the space for your work life to flourish. If you caught my first class, Put Yourself First, You Are Important, welcome back. If you missed it, head over to the Bloom platform and make sure you take it on demand. It's a really important foundation to this series, the 6-class series that I'm leading in 2022, because each class builds upon the last. So this is the 2nd class, and my whole series teaches you how to become the CEO of your own life. And this means that you behold your life as your booming business, your successful startup, your baby, your passion project. As a CEO, you have the autonomy and power to choose what is best for your life. You have a vision for your life and the drive to make it happen. You're unapologetically true to your mission and make decisions in a decisive and empowered manner. You inspire yourself through your own success and constantly outdo yourself. You control your growth, and there's nobody who can take this away from you. So throughout this series, I'm going to guide you through how to choose what is right for you, follow your own desires, and turn your life back into what you once dreamt it would be, even when it feels scary. You're going to learn how to practice living your most true and aligned life until it becomes second nature to you. And you'll choose to keep what matters most to you and release the rest. It sounds selfish, but it's truly for the benefit of everybody else around you, because when you are in an unshakable, great mood on a regular basis, you're leading by example for everybody else around you to do the same to themselves. Every interaction you have with someone else will brighten their day. You're giving them the best gift of all. It's space, support, and compassion to be true to themselves. But this is something that you must commit to for yourself, because nobody else can do it for you. And once you really get the hang of it, you're going to fall in love with it too. Okay, so take a moment to express gratitude for yourself for showing up to these classes. In today's class, you're here because you identify with one of the following. You want to get more done in less time. No matter what you're working on, it feels like you're forcing it. You spend hours sitting at your desk, but some days have little to nothing to show for it. Your productivity might be trailing, but you need to get more and more and more done. You've lost a sense of fulfillment and excitement from working, and you want more time for life outside of work. That's exactly what we're going to address here today. My objectives for you are to know how to get back in the driver's seat of your own body so you can perform when you need to, revitalize yourself through your work, empower yourself to navigate your work-life balance with grace and elegance, define and understand flow to produce miraculous results, and establish a routine that allows your own productivity to inspire you. So let's dive in. Most people out there on Google and YouTube, etc., they teach flow through scientific data, fancy terms, and oversimplified solutions like eliminate distractions, focus on one thing at a time. It sounds much easier than it actually really is. So if you like the fancy data and the scientific terms and things of that nature, there is ample material on Google and YouTube. So knock yourself out after this class. But the goal of this class is to provide a guide of how to invite the flow state into your life, as opposed to forcing it by inundating you with theories and information terms and oversimplified solutions. So I'm a yogi. I like to compare things to yoga sometimes. So for those of you who might be yogis out there, I tell all of my fellow yogis and beginners that you must invite the stretch and the calm and the peace into your body. You can't force it. The key here is to relax. And that's the same situation for flow. So we're going to invite the flow. I believe that when you organize your surroundings and the way you operate, you create space for flow state to happen naturally. It's a state of being. It's not something you can force, overthink, or outsmart. The ultimate flow in life is achieved once you're able to ascertain what you need to feel elevated productivity at work, grounded relaxation at home, and joy and bliss during your downtime. I believe that in this society, once you can get a hold of the work productivity, the other two pieces fall into place because you eliminate a lot of stress and anxiety. So we're going to work on work. Work can make us feel absolutely incredible and empowered, but it can also make us feel trapped or even sometimes completely numb, especially at the end of the day or the week, and all of the emotions in between. So let's identify where you're at on the spectrum. In the past, this concept would have been super easy to talk about because, prior to 2020, we were all working from the office for the most part. And then the last 2 years, we were kind of all working from home. So now we're all across the board with these hybrid options. And I think that that's truly beautiful because I want to point out, this is true diversity in action. It's beyond the typical parameters of race and age and gender and all of those things that we think about that we've come across in society. This is the diversity of how we exist as human beings. The topics of today's discussion can be applied the same whether you are working in an office or at home. And in fact, when I developed my approach to flow, I was strictly working from an office. So there's no reason to tell yourself that this is impossible for you. So I approach flow in 4 parts. You might want to write these down. First is energy. Second is your routine. Third is your motivation. And fourth is your atmosphere. So energy, this is the biggest component to achieving flow state. It's to know when you have the most energy and how long it can last before you need to reset. Knowing this helps create the framework for how to structure your day, meaning when you have dedicated time to focus on your projects, when you should schedule your meetings,
Yes. Okay.
and when you should take breaks. So I'm going to walk you through a series of questions. Go ahead and take notes. Identify what is most important to you to protect or implement. So here we go. What time of day do you have the highest brain function or productivity? Some people, this can be first thing in the morning. For me personally, it starts about 10 a.m. and lasts until 1. Some people, it's late night. It starts at 10 p.m. and goes until midnight. Whatever time this is for you, this should be your time block to accomplish your highest priority tasks. This is your target time for reaching flow state. And so an easy way for people to do this is to literally block off time on your calendar so nobody can schedule meetings or calls with you and you can focus. So being in flow state, being in the zone, when I first learned about it a couple of years ago, the research was stated that flow for most people, the average person, happens in a 90-minute cycle. That's the amount of time when we can really commit ourselves to focusing on one task before we absolutely just need a break, right? I see Mari says first thing in the morning. Yeah, I think for a lot of us, that's true. It's right after coffee too, coffee or tea. Okay, next set of questions. Is there a certain amount of time that you can spend sitting before you get antsy? Sometimes that can be 15 minutes. Sometimes it can be 2 hours. Do you have a regular bathroom break schedule that you tend to take? Maybe every day at 9, noon, and 3 p.m., something like that. Just thinking about these things and being aware of them helps you to implement them into your schedule in a more conscious and purposeful manner. So here's a big question. Are you more project-based, preferring to dive into a big task until it's completed? Or are you maybe somebody who chooses to spend 1 hour dedicated on something, move on to the next thing for another hour or 2 of dedication? just figuring out these things about yourself. You can start to recognize your cycles and keep track and keep notes over the upcoming days or weeks of, what you recognize about yourself. So recognize whether you need to take a quick break and to walk away, get blood flow, or whether you need to completely unplug from your work, maybe scroll through Instagram or, do some online shopping. I recommend that people schedule reminders in their phone or in their computer calendar to take these breaks. Something that pops up or your phone starts vibrating and chiming at you so that you're like, hey, I need to remember to take care of myself right now. The most important thing to consider when you're implementing this process is to grant yourself the permission to take these breaks. You're going to need to spend some time kind of going introspective and thinking about why it makes sense for you to take these breaks, what it does for you, and why it's ultimately in the best interest for not just yourself, but for your employer. A lot of people, I think, typically the studies show that women more so tend to be more committed and more driven to do things if it's for somebody else, if they're advocating for somebody else as opposed to themselves. So if that's you, like I said, think about why it's ultimately in the best interest for your employer or maybe your family. So let's shift into thinking about when we're out of flow, those times when we're feeling sluggish and not motivated, and when we're sitting stagnant in the same spot all day. Is there a certain
Hey, Steve,
time
it's Colleen. Wondering if you're in the office today for our roundtable. Just shoot me an email or let me know. I'm in here, actually. I didn't get the memo till this morning when I was...
Sorry about that.
Cool. Okay. So feeling out of flow. Is there a certain time of day that you feel this? Maybe you feel this way after certain meals, especially after a heavy lunch. Do you feel this way after talking to specific people in your office or in your family, or maybe working on specific projects that you don't totally love? It's important to recognize these times so that you can make the shift in your schedule, in your habits, in what you choose to eat for lunch, to be able to create the environment where you're able to tap into your flow. The next thing is to consider it's really important to release the guilt that you may feel around implementing these new processes to get to your flow. You're going to have to allow yourself the grace to move in and out of taking care of all these different responsibilities in your life without the guilt and judgment on yourself. Like if you decide that your energy needs some online shopping at 2 p.m. for 30 minutes, you need to figure out how to not feel guilty about that and understand why it serves you on a deeper level and resets you. Guilt is not helpful. So I see 4 to 7 p.m. I often try to schedule a gym time in that time to get me out and around others. I find that when I don't schedule this, I get more stressed. I am so glad that you brought that up. Actually, when I really stepped into my own power around flow, I implemented a 2 p.m. 2-mile run. And so I didn't even tell my team I was running. I just went for the run and came back, and it just exerted all of my physical energy so that I could sit still, right? And it got me out into nature, and it was really helpful for managing that flow. So yeah, I'm really excited to see that for you. Awesome. Okay, so when you come across feeling guilty or feeling stressed about potentially implementing some of these changes, I want you to try asking yourself why, like a 4-year-old. Why? Why? Every time you come with an excuse or a solution or a reason, just ask yourself why that's true. Usually, if you ask the question why 4 to 6 times, you can uncover some big realizations. So another question to ask is, in what way does it serve you or help your team to feel guilt or stress about implementing these different breaks into your schedule? We have to know why we feel our emotions in order to uncover what they're trying to tell us. And so you'll want to pay attention to what other emotions you feel. Maybe it's anger or resentment, disappointment, restlessness, or helplessness when you start to implement these sort of breaks. And asking yourself why uncovers a lot. So all of this information that we've just deduced from these questions will help us to determine what schedule changes we need to implement. Do you need to schedule time after your meetings to unwind? Do you need to start your workday earlier and maybe time block your most productive time? Do you need to modify your breakfast or lunch choices so that you're not feeling sluggish from your food baby? These are the sorts of questions that we ask to be able to implement those practical steps. So a couple things that I wanted to touch on. Unfortunately, we're running short on time because I want to be able to walk everybody through this quick meditation that I've planned. Some of the things that I've heard is there are a lot of feelings of guilt, of not being supported by your employer to take these breaks, and the feeling that there's a need to make up time. And so what's really important about this is shifting away from this mentality that corporate life has been, that it's all about time. It's not about time in this case, because if you're able to be much more productive in an hour than you have been before in 5 hours, that is significant gain for your employer. It's going to help them way more than it would help them to be like, you need every ounce of time. What you find is, I can't speak for your specific situation, but I think a lot of times we police ourselves a lot more and feel like we're being policed and watched more than we actually are, because our bosses have much greater things to worry about. So yeah, that's what I would say for that. I also hear that there's a lot of problems with saying no to other people, to honoring what your tasks are, and when you do say no to people, how to deal with that. And so I think my biggest solutions that I would provide for this is to try to shift your schedule to allow yourself time to complete more of your tasks. And what I say is recognize the people that are bombarding you with requests, recognize their normal time that they bombard you, and then shift some of your time block time to before or after, if at all possible. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so quickly to run through 2 parts. There was energy, routine, motivation, and atmosphere. Your routine is your morning routine, your afternoon routine, the routine of your day. First and foremost, I would say put yourself first. When you wake up in the morning, do what is most important to you for yourself to feel like you have a burst of energy in the morning. When you desire to enter your time block time or your flow, make sure you do unplug, silence your devices, put do not disturb on your email. It is okay to take time to reply to people. We have all of these crazy notifications that are coming up instantly all the time, and we expect to be able to respond, but that's really not the case. The world is not going to implode if you don't respond for 30 minutes. And if it's that important, they'll call you. And the last thing I want to say is outsource. I think somebody had mentioned something like this in my group. Make a timer or an alarm so that you can get lost in the moment and not worry about the time. Know that your phone will go off in an hour when you need to switch gears to do something else, so that during that hour you can be totally focused, not thinking about time. You're freeing up space in your brain. Okay, motivation. It's important to figure out what motivates you to work. What days are you feeling super ready to be productive? You should look at those days, what you do, and implement elements from that day into every day. Like if you have something really exciting that you're looking forward to, try to find something exciting to look forward to every day. Do the things that you deeply desire to do. If you really want to go do something like go check the mail or go for a walk, allow yourself to do that. 5, 15, 30 minutes is not going to completely disrupt everything about the day. And nobody needs to know what you're doing. You can put it on your calendar as a meeting and nobody's going to question it. So, we have 5 minutes left. I want to walk you through a quick meditation about atmosphere, because I think this is one of the most important pieces of entering into flow. When I was introducing myself in the beginning, I talked a lot about how I added decor and candles and scents, all of these things to release our stress and anxiety and ease us into the atmosphere where we're working. So, quick example for how to think about this. The ambiance of a restaurant has to be right. Like if it's date night and somebody's about to propose, that couple's probably not going to go to Chuck E. Cheese. And oppositely, if it's a children's birthday, they're probably not going to go to a really nice steakhouse. The same thing goes for your work. Your work environment should support your ultimate productivity and relaxation. So very quickly, I invite you to close your eyes and slip into a daydream of your perfect vacation. Maybe you've been fortunate enough to experience something like this lately, but perhaps it's been a while. The key is to achieve relaxation in your environment, to remove all stressors and invite the flow. You're going to flow when you feel good. So take some deep breaths. Remember, imagine your favorite vacations. You've no work to do. You've nowhere to be. You have no obligation except for being in the moment and enjoying yourself. Are you on a beach? Maybe on a boat? In nature? Are you overlooking a valley or a field of greens and flowers? Maybe you like something a little more exciting where you're operating a jet ski or driving a car down an open road. Are you laying down in a bed, on the grass, on the water, or in the sand? Maybe you're receiving a massage, relaxing in a sauna. Whatever this experience is for you, it feels luxurious, elevated, calming, balanced, and centered. It's energizing and it feels right. In this moment, you feel an abundance of pleasure in your life. You completely deserve this. You've worked hard for this. This level of relaxation, joy, bliss, and peace, you savor this. Take a moment to notice what surrounds you in this vision. What do you feel physically, emotionally? What do you smell? What sticks out the most to you about this state of being? Maybe take a couple more deep breaths. And when you're ready, flutter your eyes open. The first couple things that come to mind about that state of being, write that down. The things that you notice in your environment. That meditation that we just did is meant to help tune us into the ways that we can enhance our workspaces. Unfortunately, there's only so much we can control, whether at home or in the office, and we can't always remove what needs to be removed from a workspace. But we can always focus on adding things that need to be added to invite relaxation. So look around you right now, whatever space you're in, and think, what is it that I'm missing from that vision, from that daydream, to help relax myself? What do my eyes want to see? What does my body want to feel? My nose want to smell? What temperature is it? The idea is to pull elements from your ultimate relaxation zone to support you in maintaining a stress and anxiety-free workspace energy. Couple more things here. I know it's 10. If you have to drop off, thank you so much for joining. When we minimize the noise and distractions, we're able to focus. And we know this practically. Many flow state notifications, calls, playing children and playful pets, chatty friends, we have to eliminate those But if we thought about the intangibles, the environmental stressors, anything that brings us discomfort or comfort, when we add those into our environment, we're able to tune the mind and body into a more focused state on a subconscious level. It's kind of like body language when we're talking with people. It's all of the subconscious things that we see that we're not actively thinking about, but we get a feeling from somebody about their energy, their emotions, the way they feel. So I highly encourage you to add things to your workspace that help relax you and see how it shifts your energy. Okay, thank you so much for coming. Unfortunately, we ran out of time to walk through the last bit of this, but I'm dropping the link to the next masterclass in the chat. It's happening on May 11th, and it's about how to listen with empathy. We've heard about active listening, but what happens when we add in empathy to that practice? Okay.